Agfa Apx100. Let's take a look at it. I wanted to do some more film comparisons to Tri-X like I began earlier in the year. But to keep things consistent, rather than do them every now and then, I went ahead and got 49 different film stocks, everything I could get in 35mm from B&H and Freestyle. So unless they were out of stock, I got a roll of it. Now, if this part of the video seems familiar, it's because I'm using this portion of the video for all 49 of them rather than record it 49 times. So if you want to skip ahead to the H&D curves or the prints, time codes are right over here. For those of you that haven't seen this part of the video before, here's what I've done. So I wanted to use each film with the exact same shot, which is a headshot of me with a Kodak Gray Card Plus, which happens to have a red, blue, and green patch, a cyan, magenta, yellow patch, and then a dark and a neutral flesh tone. Then, with those shots taken, I bracketed every shot in third of a stop so that we can make sure we have a negative of equal shadow density to the base target film of Tri-X. Now, the reason I use Tri-X is because it's just been around for a long time and it's a very popular film. So it's a good base film to compare everything to. Then, once everything was developed, which was developed in D-76 at stock for the manufacturer's recommended time, I printed everything on Ilford using the exact same aperture, contrast settings, developer, and everything. The only thing I changed was my exposure time, and that was to make sure that I compensated for any base fog variation from one film stock to another. Other than that, everything was left the same so that we can have a comparison of just the qualities of the film. Now there's going to be some differences in contrast, especially on the high end, and that's because the manufacturers getting their development time may not have used the same target that Kodak used for Tri-X. And that's okay. We're not looking at the overall contrast for everything. What we're really looking at is grain characteristics, tonality, how the film treats the shadows versus the highlights, that sort of thing. And we're looking at spectral sensitivity, thus the Gray Card Plus, rather than just a regular Gray Card. So we're going to go ahead and look at H&D curves, which if you saw one of my earlier videos on sensitometry, I like to use pen and paper and make my graphs. However, my wife was really ready to make sure I was done with this project. So she put everything into a spreadsheet for you all. So even though I don't like them, I want to show them to you thanks to her. Then we're going to go ahead and look at the prints side by side with the same print made from Tri-X. And from there, you can decide if you like the film and if you want to go and use it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the curves, and then we'll go to the prints. Here we see Tri-X in blue, as all the others, and the Apx100 in red. We have a fairly sharp toe at the bottom. That means kind of like T-Max 100. We have immediate separation in the shadows from the lowest values. That's good. We should hopefully see a little bit better separation than the Tri-X. The rest of the film is a really good example of a straight line through the entire range. Does bobble a little bit up in the upper mids, low highlights, but not as much as the Tri-X in its midtones. So nice, good, straight line, excellent performance on paper. But let's look at the prints and see what it really looks like. Okay, here we have our Tri-X and our Agfa Apx100. Now, Agfa is not a big player in the US market like Kodak and Ilford. We don't see it very often. It's available, obviously, since I got these from B&H, but it's just not as commonly found. Like, I can't find it at my one local store here in Kentucky, but it is a good, solid film. This is shot at 100, so it is box speed. we can see we've got really great even tones all the way down each column, so excellent panchromatic response. The developing time provided is a little contrastier than the Kodak, so I would say looking at the whites, they're close, and we can see in the highlights here. It's close, it's a little bit brighter, but that's just, again, an adjustment of time. There is nothing to complain about right here. Conversely, there's also not much to talk about right here. It's a really good, solid, black and white, panchromatic 100 speed film. So, since there's nothing on the large scale that we can really compare, other than just the fact that they're developed slightly different, let's go ahead and zoom in and look at the up close to compare grain size and detail and sharpness. All right, we can see here how the ear and hair silhouettes against the background. We are getting nice, crisp, sharp details. The grain structure is nice and sharp and small. I would expect this from a 100 speed film, and it looks really good. I would say, without having the print next to me, that it's probably fairly comparable with FP4 from Ilford, maybe even T-Max 100. So once we get all of these individual films wrapped up, we'll compare those all together and see. But nice small grain. Let's go ahead and look at the next section. Okay, here with the shoulder, we again can see that silhouette against the background. The grain is nice and smooth. It is small like you would expect from that speed, yada yada. Looks good. Gradation's good. Nothing to complain about. Let's look at the other shoulder. All right, here we are. We are getting really nice texture in the fabric. We are getting really sharp lines on the ribbing of the collar, stitching down the shoulder, all those things, all the boxes checked. Excellent performance. Okay, here in the facial features and the close-up here. So again, we're getting nice detail, nice sharpness. What I will say about the tonal scale, so obviously we're getting full scale, black to white. I would say, however, it's treating the gradation or the separation of the gray tones much like an Ilford film as opposed to Kodak. And by that, I mean we aren't getting the separation between the high tones that we are getting in the mid and low tones. So that doesn't mean that we're getting low contrast. It just means the contrast between that highlight down the bridge of my nose right through here doesn't separate from the either side nearly as crisply as the Tri-X. Same with the highlight down across my forehead. So the tones on either side are very much the same. So it kind of blends that highlight into the tones around it. Whereas the Tri-X tends to stand out. So the Tri-X is separating those high tones more into individual tones, whereas this film blends them together into these tones, much like Ilford does on their films. So not a criticism, just an observation. They're just going to have a different look. But overall, it's a fantastic film. If you can get a hold of it, there's no reason why you should never shoot this film. It's great. I don't know if it's available in sheet film. I'm assuming it's available in roll 120. But even that I've not checked. If it is, use it. I think you'll be very happy with it. All right, that's going to do it for this particular film. If you have the chance to use it, definitely try it. If you would like to help support this channel so I can do more video comparisons and get more materials for videos like this, then you can go to my Patreon page or my merchandise page down in the description. If you have other films you would like to recommend or see covered, you can leave me a comment or join my Discord and see what kind of discussion we have there. And that's it for this week, so thank you for watching.